When Solomon's temple in Jerusalem was destroyed, the Jews were exiled, dispersed in all directions. We never forgot what was written in the Torah. We kept on praying to return. We have no written history, but our forefathers say we came to Ethiopia through Egypt and the Sudan to the Ganda region. The point is, we came to Ethiopia, and our forefathers fought to remain Jewish, and they passed down their tradition to us.
If a person allows themselves enough time to learn Torah from the Jewish people, from the sages that have toiled and toiled over every single verse and have support and evidence for every single thing that's in the Torah, you will find an answer for every question humanly possible. You'll never find something you don't have an answer for. You'll never find something there's no explanation for that could affect your life. You will have all of the issues you can possibly imagine addressed in the Holy Torah. But if you go out there and you go listen to Esav or Ishmael, then what you're going to end up with are people that are looking to deceive you because they have an agenda. Just like Esav had an agenda, just like Ishmael had an agenda, but they're not going to tell you they have an agenda, because to you they're going to sound like Yaakov. And that's why our weekly parasha says, Akol kol Yaakov vayadayim yedei Esav. The voice is the voice of Yaakov, but the hands are the hands of Esav. If you learn Torah from Esav, even if he sounds good and he's a good speaker and he's exciting and he's this and he's that, remember, he's still Esav. It's forbidden to learn Torah from him. It's forbidden to believe anything they say. The same goes for Ishmael. The only place that you can rely on are true Torah Jews. Jews that learn Torah honestly with the tradition at hand, with the Masoret, with the explanation, with the sources, and without an agenda. We have the answers, you just have to ask. Very simple. Baruch Hashem, this allows us to not only address different interesting issues within the weekly parasha, but also take some of these tools to deal with some of these problems that are out there in the world today. You have the Christians missionizing at the highest level in history. In the past, when they tried to convert the Jews to Christianity and the Jews refused, they simply murdered us by the millions.
Falasha is an obscenity. They had no respect for us.
As it had for Jews elsewhere, adversity hardened their will. Religious leaders established strict rules of conduct to insulate the Jews from their Christian neighbors.
Today, they're not murdering us physically, at least not for the last 75 years, but spiritually they're looking to murder us left and right. The missionizing by the Christians is not going to stop anytime soon. The Muslims, on the other hand, Ishmael, their dawah is no longer just focused on the Christians and the atheists. It's also focused on the ignorant Jews. It's also focused on the naive Jews. They target Jewish women in Eretz Israel with money, with all types of luxury, with all types of false hope, just to bring them back to their villages and rape them and pretend like they're married to them, only to literally tie them with chains to the refrigerator and never allow them to leave again. Many Palestinian terrorists don't realize that their mother is Jewish. They're brought up to hate their own brothers because they don't realize that their mother is actually Jewish. 60,000 Jewish girls have been captured by these Muslim terrorists. 60,000. We're talking about big numbers here for Am Yisrael. We're not China, we're not America. We don't have hundreds of millions of people. 60,000 girls for us is an enormous number. They're doing this to the girls. They're doing this to the boys. In America, the fastest growing religion is Islam. They've normalized it and beautified it to the point where your average American is becoming more inclined to adapt it, to fall into it. And in fact, many of the black guys and girls in America that are part of this Hebrew Israelite movement are now feeling empowered by joining Islam, where they're either going to call themselves the real Jews, and the real Jews of today that are Torah observant, they call us the fake Jews, because they're black and we're not, even though there are plenty of black Jews, but apparently they're not aware of this. And Judaism is not determined by skin color. It never was and never will be. Nor is it determined by DNA. Never was and never will be. But nonetheless, these black people think that their color is so significant that it determines their heritage, their lineage. And many of them are actually going to Islam. Some of them are staying with Christianity. Some are going to Islam 100%. Some have a mix of both. Literally, they have a mix of both. It's the same mishmash of craziness, but it's empowering a lot of people that are looking for attention, looking for a position of power, and they're making movies, and they're making videos, and they're making protests, and they're making a lot of noise.
Beware, lest any man spoil you. So that's what you must do. You must be aware, lest any man spoil you, meaning lie to you, right? Like being white, you being, what's your nationality? Honduras. So Zebulon, you being from Honduran, right? Because according to the Bible, because they're lying. They're lying. That's why Paul warned you. Paul warned you. Colossians 2:8. Listen, y'all listen. Beware, lest any man spoil you. So that's what you must do. You must be aware.
Our forefathers erected a barrier. It was forbidden to enter the house of a Christian, to eat with a Christian, to drink the water of a Christian. Because of this, we survived.
Lest any man spoil you, meaning lie to you. Through philosophy. Catholicism is a philosophy. Christianity is a philosophy. Islam is...
This has already been going on for several years. There was a movie that came out a couple of years ago that made a lot of noise, and a lot of black people went after it and followed the Hebrew Israelite movement, slowly but surely becoming more and more anti-Semitic. Then the idiot Kanye West put even more fuel on the fire with his idiocy and his anti-Semitism and his ignorance, even though what he said wasn't necessarily as bad as what some people make it seem to be. Still, nonetheless, in the eyes of people, especially the ones that are already have the Jews on their target and on their radar, he magnified the fire. So now you have a bunch of these so-called Hebrew Israelites, these Muslims and these Christians, making all types of videos and lectures and debates specifically targeting the Jewish people and our Torah, and distorting the reality, distorting the facts. And worse yet, they're not receiving much of a response. The Jewish world remains quiet. One of the reasons is because the common belief is that if we address them, if we respond to them, perhaps it'll make them angrier and more violent. This is a flawed logic. We've seen it time and time again fail, where when we don't respond, when we don't defend our Torah, we don't defend ourselves, it doesn't help us. It doesn't help us in any way. In fact, especially with people that are hot-tempered and people that are looking for attention, like these Hebrew Israelites, not responding to them actually fuels their fire even more, because from their warped logic, they think that because we don't respond, we don't have a response. And therefore that gives them even more empowerment in their eyes that they're right, that they really are Jews. Initially, they just figured, listen, I'm African American, my ancestors were slaves, this, that, even though that has nothing to do with me, hundreds of years have already passed. My favorite thing to do is play basketball, football, or I want to trade in the stock market, or I want to be a doctor. I live in America. None of the slavery actually really affects me, but nonetheless, I'll play that slavery card because sometimes it helps me get some people to say nice things to me, get accepted in schools, in jobs, and so on and so forth. So, this is the black guy before the Hebrew Israelites. Once the Hebrew Israelites capture this guy, he's in their radar, they get him on, all of a sudden, he's no longer a victim. He's no longer a victim. No, now he's the leader. Now the Jews are the slaves. The Jews are the enemy. How? Just a few days ago you were saying that you are persecuted, you can't get the right job, you can't get the right school, you can't get the right this, you can't get the right that, and now you're the empowered one, you're the... What happened? What, just because you had a conversation, you saw a video on YouTube? What happened? Why? Because you put that funny clothes on that you got from some costume store? How did you change from this to this? The truth is, Rabotai Karim, all of this comes from ignorance. Ignorance of the Jews and the Gentiles alike. Now, the Jews are obligated to know their Torah. The Gentiles are obligated to know their version of the Torah, which is the Noahide laws. Of course, many of them don't even know that exists. But the point being is that the only defense that a Jew will have in the spiritual war that's today against the missionaries of Christianity or the missionaries of Islam or the mixmash of the Hebrew Israelites, half Muslim, half Christian craziness, the only way is if the Jew has knowledge of the truth. Knowing enough of the Torah to know how to deal with these issues takes time. Takes time. So you can't get that time tomorrow. But what you do need to get, and what you do need to get to have already right now, is enough confidence in our Torah and enough humility in your knowledge, where you know that if somebody shows you something that contradicts our Torah, something that you don't understand, you simply say, listen, I don't understand, I have to look into it. And even if they say all types of pressuring statements to you saying, what, you don't know your own Torah, you call yourself a Jew, you don't have an obligation to know the entire Torah by heart. This is why debates are not really the best example of knowledge. Debates, generally speaking, are the example of who knows how to think quickly. To think quickly, to come up with tools and words in order to fool the audience, to carry them to their side, similar to a lawyer. Real debates are done with time, with text, without pressure. So don't debate anybody. Not online, not on videos. Focus on learning. Focus on learning enough to know the information, to know the Torah, and also to develop enough humility that when someone gives you something about our Torah that is contradictory, that is not explainable, just know you don't know everything, but you could find out. If you take enough time, you open up the books, you'll find the answer. Trust me when I tell you, we've been around for 3,333 years, since we got the Torah at Mount Sinai. No Arab from 1400 years ago, and needless to say, no idolater from 2000 years ago is going to teach us our Torah. If you combine both of their religions, they don't add up to a single page in our Holy Torah. But of course, they will always sound like Yaakov, because that's their intention. If you allow them, they'll make you even feel like they're Yaakov. The key is to know who's really Yaakov. The key is to know that Yaakov has the answers. You have to focus on learning our Holy Torah and not debating any of these monkeys, not debating any of these elephants, not debating any of these idolaters, not debating any of these people. You have to go learn about what Rashi says. Now, for anyone that knows me already for all the years, this has nothing to do with race, this has nothing to do with color. I have plenty of friends, students, employees, former employees, all types of people that I've associated with from all over the world. I have students that I treat like my children and even spend more time with them than I do with my own children that are black people, that are Spanish people, that are from different parts of the Middle East. None of that stuff matters to me. I don't see color. So don't make any comment, oh, he's racist, he's this. Go play that card on somebody else. Even on my channel, you'll see that one of my very dear sons, who I call my son, but he's really from a different mother, he, married another one of my daughters. He's black, she's not. So we have made a whole movie for them. Not because we're looking for views, because we thought it was a special story. So this has nothing to do with race. Race has nothing to do with Judaism. Judaism has everything to do with the Torah. Now, to remind any of you that perhaps are going to be attacked or confused about the Israelite, Hebrew Israelite nonsense that is becoming louder and more obnoxious today, you don't need to debate them, because you could destroy their entire belief system in a single sentence. Their whole principle, their whole belief system is based on their color. Because they're black, therefore they're the Jews. That's their belief. Why? Because they believe that Judaism started somehow in Egypt. Not really sure how they got there, and then they believe because Moses married Tzipporah, and it says Tzipporah was a Cushite, and Cushite could be translated into a black woman, so therefore that also supports their warped logic. So again, Judaism did not start with Moses. Everyone knows this, but apparently no one taught them this. Judaism started with Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, we learn about him the first time at the end of Parashat Noach. Avraham Avinu came from Bavel, and he was in a city called Ur Kasdim. At the end of Parashat Noach, in chapter 10, you'll see that there's a city called Bavel, Babylon. And in that city they had, in that country they had a place called Ur Kasdim. And then after that, in the beginning of Parashat Lech Lecha, we see that Avraham leaves with his family Ur Kasdim and goes to Haran. Now what are all these places today? Bavel is Babylon. Babylon, or Babylonia, you look it up on the internet, that is modern day Iraq. Iraq. And Haran is Turkey. Now, throughout all of history, including today, you will never find black people living and being the majority of the people of Iraq. Perhaps some African American or African black people, whatever it is, Haitians, move there, hanging out there, maybe to have a few shops, a few electronic stores, a few, restaurants, whatever they do. But as far as the people themselves in Iraq, have never and will never be black people. Some of them are darker, some of them are lighter, some of them skin complexion like mine, some have a little darker, some a little lighter, but nonetheless, everyone knows they're not African Americans. They don't look like Kanye West. They don't look like P. Diddy. They don't look like 50 Cent. They certainly don't look like the Hebrew Israelites. Avraham is not something you can challenge. Everyone knows everything started with Avraham. Avraham came from Iraq. Sarah also came from Iraq. Not Egypt. Not Ethiopia. Not Nigeria. So anyone that says they're Jewish because they're black is simply an idiot who doesn't know anything about Judaism. Now, are there black Jews? Absolutely there are. There are black Jews in Nigeria, there are black Jews in Israel, there are black Jews in America, there are black Jews everywhere. But one of the unique things that HaKadosh Baruch Hu put into the creation, only in the Jewish people, and no other people, is that the Jewish people change their form due to the air. That's what the Zohar Kadosh says. That the Jewish people, if they move to a certain place, their form will change over the generations to start looking like the people that they live next to. So that means that if you have an Ashkenazi Jew, white as a piece of bread, move him and his family and his little white kids that eat chulent and gefilte fish, you move them to Africa. You build a nice community over there. Go back there 300-400 years later, you're going to see some of his descendants without intermarriage. Some of his descendants are much darker than some of the people that you see today and call them black. Why? Because our skin complexion is not like other people based on biology. It has to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's spirituality. This is why you have Jews of all colors, of all shapes. There was a huge community of Chinese Jews up until maybe less than 100 years ago. Over 5,000 Jews.
They are all the descendants of the ancient Jewish community in Kaifeng, China, dating to the 8th to 9th century.
Lived in China.
宗教的名字是巴吉坚的教派，表示他们的屠夫按照尼克的要求提取坐骨神经，使他们与穆斯林不同。任命了特殊的屠宰者，这强调了对 kashrut 的重视。一些访问背景的犹太人抱怨他们在开封的首席拉比强加的严酷饮食规则。一位传教士来到开封，解释基督教。一旦他们看到他的圣经中的图片，在他们眼里是可憎的，他们就明白他崇拜耶稣，并立即要求牧师离开犹太教堂。犹太教堂因他的存在而受到亵渎。
And they looked as Chinese as the Chinese people you see today. With the eyes, with the skin complexion, with everything. They look Chinese.
We are going to study Hebrew and Jewish culture, and in the beginning we planned to study 1 year, but I think not enough.
But they were 100% Jewish. This is not intermarriage, this is not conversion, Jewish. Same thing with Ethiopian Jews. Many of them that moved to Israel. Arav Ovadia alav shalom, Paskin, after confirming that they were all 100% Jewish, not converts.
An emergency operation is planned to rescue the Jews of Ethiopia. It is codenamed Operation Solomon. On May 20th, 1991, Ethiopia's president flees his country. But remnants of the Mengistu government now demand a $30 million ransom to let the Jews go. Israel and the Jewish world come up with the money. In Addis and Jerusalem, the green light finally blinks on. On the morning of May 24th, Israeli Air Force planes take off for Ethiopia. carrying troops in civilian clothing. Operation Solomon is underway.
Not people that were born non-Jews and want to become Jews. No. They are 100% Jewish. And of course, there are many issues with the Jews from Biafra and other parts of Africa because there's not enough proofs. And nonetheless, even when there are enough proofs, there's not unfortunately, there's not a big enough rabbi with big enough shoulders to take it on and simply put the Exile on the Biafran Jews and the other Jews that are living in Africa. But let no one confuse you to think that your skin complexion is what makes you Jewish or what doesn't make you Jewish. There are Jews in Venezuela that look exactly like the rest of the people in Venezuela. There are Jews in Iraq, there are Jews in Iran. To this day, there are Jews in Iran. There are still this day, there's a community of Jews in Iran that are religious Jews. There are Jews in Yemen that look just like the Yemenite people.
بس كان في يهودي أو اثنين يعني كانوا في المدارس المسلمين لا دخلوها بس يعني فعلوا فترة وبطلوا.
There are Jews in Afghanistan. There are Jews in India that look just like the Indians. Many of them moved already to Eretz Israel. There's an entire Indian Jewish community in Israel. They all look like people from India, and they are from India, but they're Jews that have a direct connection to the time of the Bet HaMikdash 2,000 years ago.
ערב יום כיפור, אנחנו היינו מתארים את עצמנו, מוציאים ציפורניים, הולכים להסתפר והכל נקי כמו שצריך. בערב הולכים למקווה כזה, שזה היה באר גדול, שכל היהודים היו מתאספים שם, מתרחצים, טובלים את עצמם שם. ומאז שהם מתלבשים את הבגדים לבנים, כשהם יוצאים לכביש, שהגויים שמסתכלים עליהם עם בגדים לבנים האלה, כיפה לבנה, הכל, הם יודעים שזה החג של היהודים, שאסור לדבר איתם היום. כי יום הזה יהודים נהגו לא לדבר איתם, כי בגלל שאולי בדיבורים האלה יצאו מילים רעים מהפה של האנשים, וזה ממש לא מקובל שאתה הולך לאלוהים לבקש סליחה, ואתה מוציא מילים לא יפות מהפה. אחרי זה שהגויים גם כיבדו את בית הכנסת. בבית הכנסת היה נהוג לא לנגן על שום כלי, ולשמור על השקט, התפילות וכל הדברים האלה. כשהיו יוצאים התהלוכות של הגויים, של החתונות או דברים אחרים, הם היו באים על יד הבית הכנסת ברחוב, עוצרים את כל הנגינות, כל המתופפים, הכל היו עוצרים, עוברים 10 מטר מהבית הכנסת, מתחילים עוד פעם לנגן ולעשות רעש כמה שהם רוצים. היחס של הגויים כלפי היהודים ממש היה מכובד.
This is the one unique thing in the physicality of the Jews that's unlike anyone else in the world. Because if you're a Spanish, Chinese, Russian, black, whatever you are, and you're a Gentile, guess what? You can move to America as black. 300 years later, your kids are still black. So long as you contained the assimilation, your kids are still black. You're Russian, you move to the middle of Africa. So long as you contain the assimilation, don't assimilate with the people that are of different color, guess what? 500 years later, you're still white like a piece of bread, Russian. Why? Because the color of the Russian or the black or the Chinese or the Indian that are not Jewish have to do with biology, have to do with the physical makeup of the people. The Jewish people, it has to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It has to do with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And we've seen, and we have proofs, where you can look online, pick any nation in the world, just put the nation and then the word Jewish after it, and you'll find pictures or even videos of Jewish people that have a written, not theoretical, not belief in my heart, written proofs that they are connected to the same Jews that were at Mount Sinai. They were connected to the Jews at the Beit HaMikdash 2,000 years ago. Syrian Jews, some of the oldest communities out there. What do you think? If you go to Syria, you'll see them look different? They look like Syrians. Jews from Tripoli, my ancestors. What do you think? We look like Moroccans? No, we look like Jews from Tripoli. And Moroccan Jews, what do you think they look like? Jews from America? No, they look like Moroccans. Why? Because that's how Kadosh Baruch Hu created the world, with the Jews being unique, both physically and spiritually. Now, if you're going to play the race card, at least know who you're playing with. We are called the people of the book because we follow the book. We don't speak extra loud or extra obnoxious or extra intimidating just for the sake of proving our points. We don't need to. We have the proof. We have the connection. Now, if you want to join our people, you want to be a real Jew, you don't need to pretend. Salam alaikum. Welcome. You're welcome to come. But you have to convert. Orthodox conversion. Go to a Bet Din. Follow the laws of the Torah. Then you'll be a Jew. Don't tell me you're a Jew because of your color. Don't tell me you're a Jew because of some person that told you whatever they told you. You want to be a Jew? Follow the Torah. Torah says if you weren't born a Jew, you have to convert to Judaism. Judaism is not determined by DNA. Judaism is not determined by feelings. Judaism is not determined by theories. Judaism is determined based on the laws of the Torah. And those laws of the Torah welcome everybody in the world today to convert to Judaism if they want. But if you are going to continue playing this nonsensical card that's going to mislead the public, know that you will be punished severely. The Gehenom for the Gentiles that try to mislead the Jewish people will never end. The Mashiach will come. The world will end. But the fire that burns those people will never end. The agony and pain that they will have will be shown to all of society. So much so when the resurrection of the dead happens, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will allow them to resurrect, completely disheveled and destroyed, just to see all of the righteous people prosper, and for all of the righteous people to see all of the wicked people that didn't follow the way of God. So if you want to follow the Torah, follow. Come. Join us. You want to distort the Torah? You are an enemy of God. And God will take care of you. For you Jewish people that are watching, it's better you get acclimated to your desk, to your books, because you have a spiritual war coming, whether you like it or not.